Welcome to the scientific nap, a calm space for sleep, stories, and stillness. Let go of the day and drift into rest. Float gently into dreams, where calm thoughts cradle you to sleep. Tonight, each word guides you deeper into softness. Feel your breath slow, your mind quiet, your body sink into peace. You open your eyes, and the breath you just took leaves your lungs first, then returns slowly, as if changing its mind. There is a softness in the air, like memory exhaling. Around you, the world seems to ripple in reverse. A bird flaps backward into a tree, perches, and unsings its song. The sky above is pale and unhurried, with clouds drifting not away from each other, but towards something they once were. Your feet are bare on warm stone, but even the warmth feels wrong. It doesn't rise into your skin, it withdraws from it, gentle as a tide pulling back. A shattered cup near your feet begins to hum. Pieces wobble, hesitate, then slide inward across the ground, fitting back into their shape like regret being forgiven. You step forward, and something strange happens. Your footprints fill in behind you. Grass that was bent springs upright. Dust unsettles itself from the air. You touch the trunk of a tree and feel not bark but smoothness, the slow undoing of age. Sap returning to veins that forgot they could still flow. The forest around you is still and breathing, but not forward. Branches fold in, not out. Leaves unfall from the ground, fluttering upward to rejoin their stems with a sound like held breath. Even decay has lost its purpose here. Rot unsticks itself from fallen logs. Mushrooms shrink backward into bark. Time is not marching, it is exhaling. You kneel beside a pond, and its surface trembles as something submerged rises, a ripple collapsing back into its center. A dragonfly hovers above the water, its wings beating slower and slower until it is just hovering, and then drifting backward into the sky, trailing the wind like a thought returning to its beginning. This world does not mourn the future. It unspools the past. You feel it in your skin, your bones, the subtle rearrangement of heat, the unpeeling of aches, the soft inversion of time's usual grip. You feel lighter, as if you're being uncarried by everything you've held. Farther in the distance, a fallen tree lifts, its trunk pulling back together along a seam of moss. The crack that once split it heals with a shiver. Insects scurry away, but no, they aren't fleeing. They're returning to where they began, weaving themselves backward into the undergrowth. And then you hear it, a low whisper in the wind that isn't speaking to you, but unspeaking something it once said. You follow the sound, not walking exactly, gliding as if the world is gently repositioning you where you already were. A meadow opens, luminous and slow. You spot the bones of a deer reassembling themselves, sinew returning, breath returning, until the creature stands, not confused, but remembering it looks at you. And you wonder, were you the one who interrupted it by dying? The thought lingers like dew. Here death is not erased, it's gently unchosen. You watch fire turn to ember, then log, then tree. You see laughter return to a face still wet with tears. Nothing is pretending nothing happened. Everything is simply breathing backward, as if trying to remember itself more kindly. Your hands begin to tremble, not from fear, but because something inside you, long unraveled, begins to refold. You think of everything you've lost, not as vanished, but as in the process of return. You feel a childhood laugh you had forgotten, a ripple through your chest like warmth rediscovered. Ahead, you spot a house you don't remember building. The windows are fogged from the inside. You approach, and the door opens inward, though no one touches it. Inside, a teacup mends its own crack. A candle A photograph on the wall fades not too white, but to a younger version of the same face, and in the mirror, you see yourself as you were not long ago, but not as you are now. You blink, and the face grows younger. Another blink, and it becomes someone you haven't been in years. You step back, and the image ripples, not in horror, but in possibility. There's no fear here, only undoing. Only breath returned to lungs that forgot how to want it. You sit on the floor. The wood beneath you grows smoother. Dust lifts from the floorboards, rejoining the grain. The air smells like something being unburned, sharp, clean, almost new outside the house. The stars begin to rise, but in reverse, not brighter, but softer. The night sky folds inward, as though collecting itself. Galaxies that once spilled outward now stream home. You lie back, and the roof above you vanishes gently, not destroyed, just rewound into trees, into forest, into seed. The sky breathes in. Somewhere above, the moon begins to unlight itself. You watch the steps fold upward, each one lifting into the air and vanishing into a shimmer, like breath disappearing into frost. It doesn't feel broken, only reversed, as if the stairway is returning to an origin it never forgot. When you reach it, there's no first step left, only a surface of light, curved slightly inward, waiting. The light doesn't reflect you, not at first. It hesitates, stutters. Then, with a soft flicker, a version of you appears in the curve. But something's wrong. Not just reversed, reconsidered. The hand you lift isn't mirrored. It's echoed with intention. Your left becomes right, but not by accident. The reflection watches you as if it knows what you're about to feel. You reach toward it, and it reaches back, not simultaneously, but just before you move. A half-second early, like it's helping you remember what you're going to do, or who you were going to be. Behind the glass, the world moves differently. Trees spiral the other way. Clouds rotate counter to your instincts. Even the wind carries scent from the future, arriving before the breeze itself. You blink, and your mirrored self does not. It holds your gaze as if you are the reflection. Not at you step forward, and the surface gives way. Not like passing through water, more like being accepted, pulled inward by symmetry. The other side is familiar, but twisted gently. Buildings lean the opposite direction. Paths arc left when they should bend right. You can feel it even in your bones. A subtle reorganization, a mirror world, but not an imitation. More like a decision made differently. You move through a quiet town where signs write themselves backward but make perfect sense. Where people walk past you with faces you nearly recognize, but not quite. Their smiles bend just a degree too wide. Their shadows fall where no light touches, and all of them glance at you with a knowing that makes you hesitate. There's a shop window reflecting the street, but none of the figures behind you appear in it. Only you, standing alone, watched from within. You wave. The version of you inside lifts their hand before you do. It feels like walking through a dream that remembers you better than you. Remember yourself. You notice the rhythms here. The heartbeat of this place is not in your chest, but around you. Lights flicker with your thoughts. Doors open before you reach them. Footsteps echo with two sounds, one yours, one slightly ahead. You begin to suspect that everything here is trying to show you something, but not directly, not in words. You reach a square of glass suspended in the air like a window with no frame. On this side, your hand is your hand. On the other, reversed again. But your expression there is not the one you're wearing. It's softer, or maybe just more certain. You speak aloud. Just one word. Why? And your reflection answers first. Not in sound, but in expression. A tilt of the head, a narrowing of the eyes, the smallest upturn of the mouth, as if to say, because you needed to be here before you could understand what you weren't seeing. You touch the glass, it warms instantly, not like glass should, but like memory does, and your reflection touches you back, exactly as you are. Then both hands turn, not toward each other, outward, like releasing something. Suddenly, the world shifts. The streets bend, people pause, then pivot, not in confusion, but in calibration, as if the whole universe is correcting for your presence, not resisting it, not fearing it, just adjusting, a gentle mathematical realignment. And in that moment, you feel it, a difference that lives in the folds of the laws here, deeper than just light and shadow. A truth you hadn't held yet, that parity, the mirror image of physics, is not perfect. That this universe doesn't just reflect yours, it disagrees with it. The left is not just flipped, it is chosen. This world could never be your twin. It is your sibling who decided differently. You walk to a hill at the edge of the mirrored town. Above, the moon arcs from west to east, not in reversal but in defiance. The stars draw lines you've never seen before, constellations, with names that feel like questions you haven't asked yet. And sitting on the hill is someone know you, but older, or maybe earlier. They don't speak, but they nod, as if to say, yes, I've watched you watching me. I know which one of us moved first. You sit beside them. For a long time, nothing happened, but when you rise, only one of you leaves a shadow behind, and somewhere behind your smile, something is watching itself through you. You feel it shift as the hill beneath you begins to soften, not erode, but dissolve backward, like memory unstitching itself from the present. The sky above loses its color by degrees, draining not into gray but into light's blueprint. Then the stars begin to rearrange, not flicker, not fall, but return. They move, in spirals that narrow. A supernova in the west clenches back into silence. Its bloom collapses into a pinprick, then becomes a sun again, burning cold and unreadable, as though it never had the nerve to burst. You don't hear the explosion reversed. You feel its absence arriving too late. The galaxies above begin to swirl inward, not rushing but recoiling with a slow, deliberate grace. Spirals unwind. Dust gathers itself into tighter and tighter orbits. The sky is rewinding, and is not in a hurry. Every rotation remembers something. Every step back is a breath that was once lost. You rise slowly, and the air seems thinner. Here, as if time itself is growing younger. Not just the landscape, but the very laws behind it are drawing inward. You walk beneath constellations you've never seen before, forming themselves backward from collapsed chaos, their light bending, not toward you but away, reversing through your eyes as if unreading your gaze. Ahead, a city flickers into focus, not brick by brick, but event by event, unburned candles restoring themselves, windows unshattering in perfect silence. Footsteps rejoin souls, doors unclose. The wind untangles itself from the alleys it once echoed through. You pass under a street lamp that gently pulls its glow back inside. coiling filament into stillness. The moment dims, and then becomes something earlier. Everywhere around you, light is unspilling, not erasing itself, but pulling the story back toward an origin that still holds its breath. In the plaza, you pause. People are walking, but not. Toward destinations, toward beginnings. Conversations unravel into silence. Arguments soften into unspoken tension, and then into small nods exchanged in reverse. A child laughs, then gasps, then sits quietly beside their untouched toy. You realize the city is not dying. It's uncoozing, its aftermath. Above it all, a comet reassembles from the streak of its descent, climbing backward into the darkness with a glowing tail that erases its own arc. You reach for your pocket without knowing why and find a coin. It feels colder than it should. You flip it, it never lands. It pauses at the apex, shivering mid-air, then falls back into your palm before you release it. 'Cause follows effect here, but only just. You walk toward the edge of the city, where the buildings become older, not in wear but in design. Stone becomes clay. Clay becomes intention. Blueprints draw themselves shut. The stars above now form a tight lattice, not distant lights, but coordinates in a deeper map. You feel them pulling at you gently, not with gravity, but with memory. Like they're reminding you of something you haven't done yet. And then you see it. A building with no entrance. Only windows watching the sky inside. Time behaves strangely. Not hostile, just uncertain. A flame retreats into a match head. A glass of water rises into the air, refilling from its puddle on the floor. A clock ticks backward, but its hands tremble, as if unsure of their instructions. You sit beside the window and watch the stars continue their retreat. One by one, novas reverse into stability. Solar winds withdraw from their edges. Nebulae unfurl. Inward the sky grows darker, but not emptier, just simpler. Like a painting being unpainted. Each brushstroke lifting back into the hand that made it. And still, something inside you is whispering forward. You realize the feeling has never left. Not since you arrived. A tug, gentle but insistent. The way wishes used to rise in your chest when you saw falling stars. When you believed time moved only one way and the past could never be edited. But here, in this place that unthreads even the cosmos, the wish remains. Not loud, just steady. Like a law that even the reverse cannot erase. You lean your forehead to the glass, and for a moment you see both skies, the one that reverses and the one that remembers, one pulling in, one letting go. You blink and the stars blink with you, not synchronously but rhythmically, like a conversation between time's two directions. Outside, someone is walking up the road. Their movements are backward, but their presence feels forward. They look up at the sky and nod, and you understand. They see the same two skies. They feel the same contradiction that even in a universe unwinding itself, something within still wants to become. You close your eyes, and in the darkness behind your eyelids, the stars stop moving. Not gone, just paused. Like they're waiting for you to decide which way to dream. The hum gathers like a memory unspoken, curling through the reeds at your feet. The grass sways in time with something that hasn't happened yet, and the path you follow seems to remember you before you step on it. The sky above is blank with expectation, like a question, still forming. You walk until the earth softens beneath you and becomes a shore. A river, gleaming and glass-like, winds toward you, not away, slipping backwards across stone and root. Its surface holds no ripples, only the faint shimmer of what it already knows. You kneel to touch it, and the water peels away from your fingertips like a forgotten dream returning home. Each droplet seems to erase the one before it. Like the moment you dip your hand into the stream, your reflection never existed. The river doesn't flow toward the sea, it moves toward its beginning. And with every inch it travels upstream, something unravels behind it. Leaves unfall from trees. A broken twig fuses whole again. Footprints you didn't make lift themselves from the mud. You walk along the river's edge, and the world beside it flickers like a lantern remembering the dark. In this place, effects slip free of causes. You hear a bird call, and then you see it fly. A branch cracks, and only later do you glimpse the wind that might have bent it. The air smells like déjà vu in reverse, like something is recalling you. You begin to wonder if this is a river, or a thought retracing itself. It feels like time peeled open. A ribbon curled inward, where past and future meet not in sequence, but in confusion. Here, the end arrives before its reason, and your questions come before your mouth remembers how to shape them. A figure waits at a bend in the river. Your shape, your stillness, watching something you have not yet seen. When you blink, they vanish, but the grass remains folded, where they stood, as if you've already passed through yourself. The river turns luminous under a twilight that never quite becomes night. You follow it upstream, but the landscape changes behind you. Trees regrow their fallen limbs. The sky unblushes from rose to grey, and somewhere in your chest a memory detaches, no longer anchored to a moment. Was it yours, or someone else's? Echoes stitched into your dreaming. You begin to see the river as a thought in retreat, a universe that doesn't want to know what happens next. Droplets rise from the lake far behind, threading upward like beads on a string, and slip against the current with gentle urgency. They pass you with no sound, no splash, only absence, only undoing. You stop beside a rock, smoothed by uncountable unjourneys. In it, the grooves spell something, not words, but paths that never finished forming. The rock feels older than its shape allows, like it has been worn down by futures that never happened. You place your hand against the stone, and for a moment, you feel younger than you are. Lighter, like choices you haven't made are already drifting away, untethering the weight you didn't realize you carried. There's a comfort in this forgetting, a hush where intention used to be. A dragonfly hovers beside you, its wings vibrating in a slow reverse rhythm. It lifts from the air, then lands, then lifts again. It's not confused, it's correct. You are the one out of sync. The world here doesn't require your logic. It requires only your willingness to watch. The further upstream you walk, the more the dream loses its seams. You pass under a fallen tree, and bark knits itself back onto the trunk as you exit its shadow. Far ahead, a stone skips itself across the river, then leaps into the hand of a child that no longer stands there. The child's laughter arrives a breath before the splash. You sit for a moment at the water's edge, where time feels tired. The current is slower here, as if even reversal needs rest. You wonder what it means when consequence forgets to follow action, when apology comes before mistake, when you feel sorrow before you know why. Your hand closes around a small, smooth coin by the shore, impossibly balanced on its edge. You don't remember placing it there, but you do remember finding it again and again. It has no heads or tails, no choice to make, just a single suspended moment, like time trying not to pick a side. A gust of wind stirs the water, but the ripples move upstream against the breeze. You watch them vanish into their source. And in that moment, a thought unthinks itself inside you. Maybe the future isn't behind us. Maybe it's just waiting to remember. You rise, and ahead, the river disappears behind a bend of light, not into distance, into origin, as if it will soon forget it ever flowed at all. And still, the humming in the air remains, though now it sounds like something just beginning to be born. The trees ahead curve in ways they didn't before. The wind seems to pull, not from the front, but from the past, as if you're being drawn forward by what you already were, and high above, where the stars have not yet remembered to shine, a staircase begins to undescend. The staircase begins to undescend, and you follow, not by walking, but by forgetting how weight used to work. The steps stretch out beneath you like ribboned vapor, folding upward into nowhere. Each one you touch dissolves into a whisper of moss or a note of wind. You do not fall, you do not rise, you drift. Below, or maybe above, a canopy of upside down. Trees hovers with roots exposed like tangled hair, dipping into clouds that blush with twilight. Their branches don't stretch toward the sun, but toward memory itself, curling around shadows of what once mattered. You float forward between their trunks, grazing bark that feels like sleep and smells like rain waiting to happen. The world here doesn't press you down. Gravity no longer chooses sides. Some leaves flutter up instead of down. Pebbles spin slowly, in place, unsure whether to settle or soar. You pass a stream running through mid-air, its surface curving softly around invisible hills of force. Every drop seems to weigh its options. Your foot brushes against a mushroom, growing mid-float, its cap tilting like it's listening. You reach out to catch it, but your hand slows, then stalls, then waits. The mushroom doesn't fall into your palm. Instead, it decides. And so do you. You remember what it used to feel like to be grounded. Not just by physics, but by meaning, the way certain places pulled you toward them, the way some people made you feel heavier, just by looking at you. That kind of gravity, too, has let go here. A fox passes, or a memory of one. Its tail flows like a comet's path. Each paw step flickers against bark and smoke. It sees you, then vanishes into a tree that's grown sideways, spiraling around itself like a forgotten decision. The trees here don't obey shape. They obey mood. In the space between two trunks, you see a hammock of glowing thread, gently pulsing with breath. Someone once rested there. Maybe you, maybe someone who could no longer stay tied to the ground. You don't lie in it, but you touch it, and for a moment you weigh everything you've lost, and everything that never needed to be carried. A little farther, a hill curves up, then peels into the sky like the edge of a page turning. You walk up it without effort, without resistance. Each step releases the idea that you were ever bound to a surface. The sky here is not above. It is within, and then you hear it. The hum, it's not loud, but deep, like a distant cello played inside a memory. It vibrates in your chest and soles. It's the sound of mass negotiating with space, of presence deciding whether or not to settle. You follow it to a clearing where gravity itself seems to pool and ripple. Like a shallow lake made of invisible agreements, stones orbit each other in slow spirals above this place. Roots loop upward into the mist, anchoring nothing but the memory of down. You kneel without needing to. The air gathers gently around you. You are not pulled, you are invited. You realize now, this world doesn't force weight. It listens. For it, the rules here are not fixed. They emerge like songs sung by a choir that doesn't know it's singing the same melody. Gravity is not the law. It is the outcome of trust between what is here and what chooses to stay. You open your hands, in your palm, a stone from your old world. You don't remember picking it up, but it's warm, familiar. It begins to rise, then hesitates, hovering just above your skin, unsure of its story. You think of people who once held you, of those who let go, of those who never quite grasped you at all. You think of how you learned to hold yourself, gently, eventually, when nothing else did. The stone quivers, then drifts upward, slow and grateful, as if released from obligation. Around the clearing, the trees begin to drift again, rearranging themselves like thoughts finally allowed to forget structure. A leaf brushes your cheek. On its way upward, you smile without meaning to. Not all things need to fall. Far beyond the clearing, a path unfolds. Not on ground, not in air, but somewhere through both. It curves like a question you forgot you asked. It glows faintly, like the trace of a dream you're not ready to wake from. You follow it, one step at a time, but each step leaves no mark. And yet, the world remembers you, not by footprint, but by feeling. The forest adjusts. Gravity recalibrates. You are not a visitor here. You are part of the negotiation. And somewhere ahead, the horizon begins to bend, not downward, not up, just away, like a truth you almost recognize. And in that gentle curve of space, a door begins to hesitate. It doesn't swing open or shut. It quivers, caught between possibilities. The air around it holds its breath, waiting for one version of the world to become true. But none of them do. The door just lingers, suspended, as if two different moments are pulling at its hinges. You step closer, and the floor beneath your feet begins to shift. Not sideways, not down, but between. One half of the floor hums with motion, vibrating faintly with forward momentum. The other half pulses slower, rhythmic and dreamy, like a heartbeat slowed in sleep. You are standing in the seam where two kinds of time begin to divide. There's a building ahead, tall but soft, jedged like it was painted with memory instead of stone. Its windows blink faintly, as though they're unsure whether to reflect light or swallow it. Inside, you find the clock, or rather, the two of them. One clock face, two second hands. One ticks forward like any other. The other floats, then jumps, then pauses entirely, as if waiting for something only you can feel. The room grows quiet. The ticking becomes a texture, like breath against skin. You place your hand near the glass, and your pulse flutters. The second hand that moves with regular time ignores you, but the other matches your heart. And that's when you notice it. Every time you blink, the room is slightly different. Not changed, shifted. A book on a shelf leans left, then right. The shadows of a chair grow taller, then vanish entirely. Your reflection in the mirror gains a new gesture, a tilt of the head. You didn't perform. You aren't in one time anymore. You are in two. The clock that ticks with logic, with minutes and maps and calendars, that time still guides the outer world. But the other timeline, the one that stirs in dreams, in memories, in quiet pulses you never counted, that one is inside you. A second current running just beneath the skin of reality. You step outside again. The sky has not changed, but your steps no longer land where you expect. The cobblestones ripple slightly underfoot. Somewhere in the near distance, a tree branches in two directions at once, one with blossoms, one with bare winter fingers. You reach for it, and both Seasons briefly shiver through your fingertips. There is no choice to be made between them. Both are happening. You find a journal in your coat pocket. You didn't put it there. The pages are filled with handwriting that is yours, but only halfway familiar. Some entries are dated, some are not. Some are written in moments you remember. Living, others you have not yet reached. You flip to a page halfway through. It reads, "I met someone here, myself, I think, but older, or younger, or maybe just braver." You pause. You didn't write that. Not yet. But you could dot in the plaza beyond the trees. People move at different speeds. Some hurry, tethered to devices and routines and signals. Others drift like thoughts in a dream, following no visible plan, but moving with deep intent. You realize they, too, might be living in both times, one seen, one felt. A child stands at the center, spinning in circles. Each rotation lands her in a different version of the square. The lampposts change style. The sky subtly shifts hue. The fountain sings in different tones. She laughs each time like she's learning a language only her body understands. You sit near the fountain. The water flows in one direction, then curls upward as if undecided. You dip your hand into it, and for a moment, the two timelines flicker through you like alternating currents. One shows the path you took here. The other shows paths you never chose, but still somehow lived. You do not feel regret. You feel layers, possibility without confusion. You are not lost. You are simply plural. A soft chime pulls your attention back to the clock tower in the distance. Both second hands now move, one steady, one pulsing in tandem with the moon that has begun to rise. You don't know which one marks the real time. Maybe both do. Maybe you are the point where they touch as night deepens. The buildings begin to glow faintly, not with light, but with memory. Moments linger on the walls like reflections that haven't faded. A woman closes a door, again and again, like a loop waiting to resolve. A cat leaps across a rooftop, always in midair. A version of you walks just ahead, unaware of your presence, pausing at corners, peering into alleys, touching things you do not. You follow them. They pause at a railing overlooking a field where the stars have spilled onto the ground, flickering in patterns that do not match the sky. You stand beside them, though they never turn to look. But you know they feel you there, as if two thoughts, separated by time, have just remembered they are one. And in the stillness, a small, weightless knowing settles into your chest. You are not late, you are not early, you are not behind or ahead. You are exactly where both timelines agree you need to be, somewhere in the stars below. One begins to pulse with your rhythm, and another starts to flicker in reverse, and somewhere ahead, the hour begins to split. You feel it first in the quieter moment that fractures without sound. The path beneath your feet hums softly, but not from the wind or the earth. It hums like something remembering you too early. The sky above is pale, but not with morning. It's the pallor of possibility folding in on itself. And behind you, or maybe ahead, something whispers your name before you've even thought to listen. You step carefully into a hollow where the trees grow in rings, not outward, but inwards, curling like questions around something unsaid. Each branch seems to bend toward a center that keeps shifting, sometimes left, sometimes right, and once, for a flicker, it bends toward you. Somewhere a bird calls twice at once. The second call arrives before the first. You try to speak, but your voice feels delayed. or maybe too soon. Your words reach your ears before they leave your mouth. Hello, you say, but the sound greets you like an old friend who has already said goodbye. Something here is looping, not just in space, but in time, in meaning, in choice. You reach for a branch, and it snaps back before your hand moves. The world here is made of echoes that lead, not follow. Whispers come from the edges of things, carrying words not yet spoken. The soft sibilance of maybe, the hush of almost one voice seems to belong to you. Another, deeper, more distant, trembles like it remembers a version of you who once turned the other way. A fog begins to gather, but it doesn't move like weather. It curls in patterns, spirals that never settle. As you walk, the air thickens, not with mist, but with probability. Possibilities hang like dew on invisible branches. A coin flips in your pocket, or did it flip hours ago? You reach for it, and find it balanced, impossibly, on its edge. Beneath your feet, the ground is tiled in half-formed reflections, not of your face, but of decisions. You see the you who left early, the you who stayed behind, the you who said yes, the you who never said a word. Each reflection looks up, startled to see you. Some reach out, some turn away, and then you hear it, the echo that doesn't belong. Not to the forest, not to your steps, not even to your memories. It comes from ahead, but lands behind, like a whisper threading a needle of time. It says a name you almost remember. It's not your name, not quite. It's the name of a version of you who once imagined a different ending. You follow the voice deeper into the forest, where the trees start to unravel into diagrams, loops, and lines, branching paths, elegant in their indecision. The air is filled with questions. Some are small. What if you'd looked left? Some are larger. What if the universe is still choosing which story to tell? You pass a pool that reflects not your face, but your intentions. As you lean over it, the surface flickers with choices. To leave, to return, to forget, to forgive. Each option is a ripple that doesn't fade, merely waits. Around you, the forest flickers, sometimes solid, sometimes translucent, as if undecided whether to remain real. The science here is not rigid law, but liquid logic. You begin to realize this is a place where information doesn't just move forward. It loops, dances, folds back. Like ink in water, it curls in on itself, sometimes returning to its source. The past is not lost here. It leans forward. The future leans back. Your thoughts begin to echo before you think them. You imagine a fire, and warmth brushes your skin. You wonder if you're alone, and a shadow steps beside you, breathing in sync. It does not look like you, but it feels like you. A self you didn't become, but almost did. It reaches for your hand, and you don't know whether to call it future or past. Together, you and the shadow walk into a clearing shaped like a spiral. Stones hum softly beneath your steps. A whisper greets you again, the same voice as before, but this time it finishes your sentence as you think it. You pause. So does it. The spiral opens into a wide dome made of woven probability. Threads of silver drift across the air, vibrating with every thought, every glance. Some threads thrum louder, the ones you've considered more deeply. Others wait quietly, hoping for your notice. You realize this place is not built of matter, it's built of potential. And here, you feel it, the scientific soul hiding beneath the dream. Quantum superposition. Not one path, but many. Not one you, but all the could have beens. still entangled in decision. And deeper still, the strange return of information, the way futures can nudge the present, the way echoes can shape the voice that hasn't yet spoken. A hush settles. You close your eyes, and for a moment you hear 1,000 versions of yourself breathe, not in chaos, in chorus. All the might have beens, all the maybe some days, exhaling in time. You are a note in a song that hasn't been written yet, but already plays backwards from the end. When you open your eyes, the shadow is gone, but not lost. It lingers in the fog, waiting for the next question to shape it. The spiral behind you closes, softly, like a book that remembers being read. And just ahead, a shimmer in the air begins to fold inward, not a door, but something like a decision remembering itself. And where the light bends twice before it shines, something is already listening. It listens not with ears, but with echoes, the kind that loop before they begin. Your foot moves forward, and the shadow it casts slips behind you, then curves upward, as if even darkness isn't sure where to fall anymore. The corridor stretches long, but it does not stretch forward. Light glows in the air like threads caught in the windless hush, some pulling toward the past, others coiling back into themselves, like forgotten questions. You reach out your hand, and one of the beams pulses against your palm, not warm, but familiar. Its glow doesn't reflect your skin, but something deeper, the shape of a memory that hasn't happened yet. A breath you haven't taken, a choice you haven't made. Yet here it is, already glowing beneath your fingertips, like a map that only reads backward. You follow it, the ribbon of light. It twists gently through the corridor, like a river retracing. Its source, doors appear along the walls, but none face the same direction. Some lean inward, their hinges sighing like they've opened before you reached them. Others flicker, as though undecided about whether they were ever truly shut. At the end of one hallway, you see yourself, or perhaps it's the version of you that came before. They move like you, hesitate like you, but when they turn to meet your eyes, they don't look surprised. They raise a hand before you do, and it matches yours exactly, down to the light curling around each knuckle. The corridor bends. Not physically, time bends it, like a hallway being folded into origami, pressed into a shape that repeats without closing. You pass a mirror, but it doesn't reflect. Instead, it plays moments in reverse, tears unfalling, footsteps rewinding. A hug you remember only because it's about to happen. There's a place in the wall where the light doesn't shine. A soft, dark notch, small and quiet, like a pause. You step into it. Inside, the world is amber, thick with time that moves like syrup, slow and reluctant. Here, the light doesn't just bend. It returns. Sunbeams drift inward through a ceiling that isn't there, spiraling down into the floor, where they vanish without sound. A flower on the ground uncurls itself, pulls its petals inward, tucks back into bud. You kneel to touch it, and it warms beneath your hand, not from your heat, but from the memory of sun it has yet to feel. Somewhere nearby, a sound repeats, the tapping of something small, in the same rhythm, over and over. You follow it and find a clock, but not one made for telling time. This one spins inward. Its hands move counterclockwise, but every tick lands in the exact right place, like a heartbeat skipping backward and still keeping rhythm. You watch it tick, and as you do, something inside you begins to soften, not with fear, but with a strange relief, the kind that comes when you realize you don't always have to choose the next moment. Sometimes it already chose you, long before you arrived. You pass another version of yourself, younger, maybe. They're whispering something to a figure in the distance, but the words are folding back into silence before they land. You can't hear them, but you remember speaking to them. The corridor begins to open. The frozen light thins into threads, then into vapor. It no longer glows with fire, but with memory, soft, slow, recursive. You hold up your hand again, and for just a moment, your fingers pass through two beams at once, one carrying the light from a day-long past, the other from a day not yet known. They meet in your palm like strands of a braid, time touching itself. You close your hand gently and feel it, the subtle shimmer of decisions echoing both backward and forward. In this place, nothing is strictly cause or effect. Some beginnings are echoes of ends. Some ends are invitations to begin again. The path ahead no longer looks like a line. It curves upward, then downward, then inward, like a spiral galaxy folding in on itself, not collapsing, but remembering. You step forward, and the corridor sighs behind you. The light does not follow, it leads, and far ahead, where time loops, like a ribbon of breath, a doorway begins to flicker in both directions at once. You step through it, or maybe it steps through you, and find yourself floating just above a pale and endless ocean. It doesn't shimmer, it doesn't move, and though your weight should pull you down, there's no gravity here that answers to anything you've known. Beneath you, the water curves like silk stretched across a breathless world, but it doesn't reflect the sky, because there is no sky. The air is thick with hush, the kind that softens even thought. You begin walking, or maybe gliding, over the ocean's skin, but soon you notice something strange. No matter which way you turn, you always return to where you started. You try again, left, then right, then straight through the silver mist. Still, the same place finds you, as if the world itself refuses to offer you a different side. A faint rhythmic hum pulses from somewhere far below, like the heartbeat of the ocean's memory. You kneel, pressing your ear to the surface, but it offers no echo, only a quiet warmth, as if it's thinking, as if it's looping. You try to follow the curves, mapping them in your mind, but the moment you name a direction, it folds in on itself and unnames it. Left becomes right, up bends, inward. There is no horizon, only more curve, more loop, more folding of space into thought. A ripple travels outward, not from you, but from some unseen place, and the ocean lifts in a slow arc. But instead of rising into a wave, it folds underneath, disappearing into itself like a ribbon being pulled through a hidden seam. There is no crest, no crash, just the soft, surreal act of return. The motion reminds you of something ancient, not a sea, but a sigh. You walk again, or maybe you stand still and the world turns you. Time feels uncertain here, not because it is broken, but because it no longer believes in sides. The ground. Is the sky, the past, a spiral, the future, a fold that cannot open? You close your eyes and try to trace it, the feeling of forward, but it loops inside your chest like a Mobius dream. Eventually, you come to what you think is a shoreline, but there is no land, only a darker blue beneath your feet, marked with soft ridges like fingerprints. You follow them. They spiral outward, not like a map, but like the memory of one. You reach to touch them, and they shimmer faintly, not with light, but with possibility. For a moment, it feels like you could fall inward into a place that touches both sides at once. A thought forms, what if the journey doesn't go from here to there? What if it only ever turns itself inside out, quietly, forever? Shapes begin to emerge in the mist, not objects, but suggestions of them. A boat, with no hull. A sail caught in no wind. A figure that looks like you, walking not toward you, but around you, as if caught on the same twisted surface. You reach toward it, but your hand bends slightly, like light through curved glass. Your reflection turns and disappears behind you, without ever having been in front. There is no panic, only the softness of unreality settling like a warm fog. You sit, or maybe you drift, and try to make sense of it. But sense doesn't hold here. What holds is feeling. A gentle ache that maybe this world is not meant to be solved, only felt as it folds around you. You close your eyes and picture the ocean as paper, being folded again and again into something elegant and useless. A shape meant only to carry wonder, and then you hear it. The sound of a wave, the first one, not loud, not crashing, just a small curl of motion that actually crests. You rise, you walk toward it, though toward means nothing now. Still, the wave grows. It begins to shimmer, not with water, but with sides. It is the first thing you've seen here that believes in difference. It curves up, then down, then up again, and suddenly you understand, this wave is not crossing. The ocean, it is the ocean, finally remembering how to change. It rolls toward you, and instead of pulling you under, it folds you gently within, not like drowning, but like being tucked into a story that forgot it had an ending. You don't fight it. You let yourself be curved, wrapped, rewritten. You feel the top become bottom, the inside become outside. Your breath turns backward for a moment, then forward again, and for a flicker of a flicker, you understand how a world can have only one side and still hide everything. When the wave passes, the surface is new. It reflects something now. Not sky, not clouds, but a shimmer that might be your own gaze looking back and far beneath, where the folds meet and part again like sleep turning in its bed. Something is beginning to rise, not as a shape, but as a question you've already asked in another direction, and already heard the answer, just not yet. The second wave doesn't crash. It exhales, a ripple of silence, curling through the mist like memory waking up. You follow it without thinking, feet stirring dust that glows faintly blue beneath. The surface, the deeper you go, the colder the light becomes, as if it's not fading but concentrating, as if it's learning to burn without heat. The air is thick with stillness, but not the ordinary kind, not the kind that feels like waiting. This one feels ... balanced, deliberate, like something invisible is holding its breath. Ahead, a forest of glass trees stretches upward, each limb flickering with an inner frost fire. Cold flames that lick the branches but consume nothing. You step closer. They don't crackle or flare. They whisper in slow spirals. You reach out. The nearest flame wraps around your hand like silk dipped in moonlight. Icy at first, but not in a way that repels. It sinks into your skin, not to burn, but to steady. It quiets you. The silence is not empty here. It is full of what isn't breaking, full of energy moving backward. Your body adjusts in ways you can't name. You no longer radiate warmth, you absorb it. The usual logic of sensation slips away. When you breathe, you feel the fire's cold warmth pass into your lungs, and instead of panic, your chest calms. There's no heat, no destruction, just this impossible serenity in the frozen flame. You move among the glass trees. Some of them glow brighter the colder they become. One catches your attention. Its flames pulse faster than the others, but instead of getting hotter, they pull deeper into stillness. Like the more energy they receive, the more they resist chaos. You kneel by it, and in its glow, your thoughts slow. This is a place of negative temperature, but not colder than cold. Beyond cold. Here, adding energy doesn't lead to frenzy or combustion. It leads to balance, to peace. The more the fire receives, the less it wants to move. You think of your own heart, all the heat it has spent trying to escape itself. What would it mean to let it cool like this? Not to numb, to stabilize, to stop fleeing in the distance. A structure appears, not a building, but a kind of suspended form. A chandelier of ice blue fire, floating without source or anchor. It hangs mid-air above a shallow lake of mirrored stone. The flames drift, in synchronized stillness, neither climbing nor falling, just hovering in perfect inversion. A breath that never finishes exhaling. You step onto the stone. Your reflection moves slower than you do, like it's caught in the calm the fire understands. In the center of the lake, a pedestal rises, and on it, a single glass sphere, pulsing, with frozen flame. The air around it is warmer, paradoxically, as if the cold here is not the absence of heat, but a different kind of energy entirely. One that absorbs disorder instead of fueling it. You reach for the sphere, expecting it to resist, but instead it leans into your hand. You lift it, and inside, the flame spirals inward, tighter and tighter, until it disappears into a pinprick. Like it's found a center so calm, it no longer needs to exist. And then, sound returns. A tone low and soft, like the resonance of breath over glass. Not loud, but anchoring. Around you, the trees begin to shift. Their flames bend, not in fear or wind, but in direction, all of them leaning gently towards something unseen. You follow their lean, cradling the sphere in your palms. The ground cools underfoot, but your steps feel steadier now. You're not reacting anymore, you're choosing. That's what the cold fire has taught you, how to hold energy without using it, how to be full without spilling. At the edge of the forest, a cliff. Below, a chasm lit by reverse lightning bolts that travel upward in slow spiraled defiance. The flames at your feet begin to gather, curling up your ankles in silent invitation. They don't burn, they anchor. You step forward, the flames carry you down, not falling, gliding. You descend through the frozen firestorm, through pulses of energy that should tear, but instead soothe. Each flicker slows your heart, not in danger, but in discipline. You are becoming a container, not a spark. And in this place, that means survival. At the base of the chasm, the flames part. A hallway waits, made of obsidian walls that hum faintly. In the center, a door that doesn't open outward or inward, but sideways, folding into itself like a pocket of probability. You reach for it, and the glass sphere in your hand glows briefly, then goes dark. No fire, no heat, just potential. You step through, and behind you, the cold begins to remember how to burn. The pulse grows louder the closer you step. Not in volume, but in presence. A soft thrum like breath meeting breath in an unseen mirror. The wall shimmers faintly, as if it's made not of stone or glass, but of decisions waiting to become real. You reach out, expecting resistance. But instead, the wall parts, not like a door, but like an idea reconsidering itself. Beyond it, the world splits, not violently, not with noise or fracture, but with a hush so complete It feels like the silence between heartbeats, suspended, mid-thought. Two paths unfold in front of you, twin trails stretching out into two distinct dreamscapes. One veiled in gold light and motion, the other in silver stillness and shade. You do not choose. You simply step forward, and both of you go. In the golden path, you move like certainty, feet swift on moss-covered stones, eyes fixed ahead. This version of you does not pause to doubt, does not hesitate when the world curves strangely or the sky bends at a wrong angle. Your fingers skim low-hanging stars, your breath keeps pace with comets. You are the decision that dared, but in the silver path you linger. Each step waits for the wind to speak. You run your hands along walls that seem to whisper before they dissolve. This you listens to echoes that haven't happened yet, follows shadows shaped like possibilities. You are the question that waits to be asked, and still, somehow, you are both. You feel it in your chest, the twin rhythms, one heartbeat a fraction ahead, one a fraction behind, flickering against each other like overlapping waves. You look down and see your footprints forming in both directions, not one after the other. At the same time, the golden path hums with the confidence of what is. The silver one shimmers with the potential of what might have been. But here, now, the difference collapses. You are the particle that took two paths, and both have arrived. A mist curls around you from both worlds, forming a thin veil of interference between your thoughts. Shapes emerge and vanish before they finish forming a door with no hinges. A tree whose branches split backward in time. At the center of it all floats a bridge made of woven light. It flickers, as if trying to decide whether to exist. You step onto it, and the bridge becomes real with each footfall. Something strange happens. Pieces of both use converge. The swift certainty of one meets the curious pause of the other. Your hands remember how to hold and how to release at once. You are no longer walking to paths. You are the interference pattern where they meet. Above you, the sky doesn't look like sky anymore. It resembles the surface of a coin caught in motion, spinning so fast you can't tell which side faces you. A sunless glow pulses from it, and as you tilt your head, you realize it's not just spinning, it's choosing. But only now that you've seen both, and yet, it chooses after the journey's done. This place, you understand without understanding, is made of delayed choices. Places where observation decides the path, not before but after. A landscape that retroactively rewrites itself to match what you eventually notice. Here, reality doesn't wait for permission, it waits for attention. You step off the bridge. The ground below you firms as you look down, even though it hadn't existed a second before. Behind you, one path vanishes entirely, the other remains. But you can't tell which is which anymore. It doesn't matter. They both led here. You carry the echo of both decisions, folded into each step. In the distance, you see yourself, or someone shaped like you, waiting near a pool of dark water. When you approach, the figure doesn't turn. You stand beside them. The surface of the pool ripples outward, though nothing touches it. And then you realize this is the moment that started it. The moment you stood at the fork in the road. Long before the wall pulsed open, long before the world split, and you now are the result watching it unfold. You're the future returning to its own origin. You see the choice again. You feel the breath before it. But this time, you know something. Both versions of you walked on. Both versions of you mattered. You kneel and touch the water. It splits into two mirrored ripples, intersecting, not cancelling, but dancing around each other. A pattern emerges, rings folding through rings, a gentle interference that looks like memory stitched through time. In the ripples, scenes flicker, the paths you took, the things you felt, the choices you never realized were choices, and just beyond the reflections, you glimpse something stranger still, paths you didn't take, yet still remember. You see a version of you who turned back, one who never touched the wall, one who ran, one who stayed forever. They are not ghosts, they are not dreams, they are possibilities with fingerprints, and somehow they've all touched this place. You sit by the pool, watching yourself watch the water, the paths, the bridge, the sky that spins, all of it folds into a single moment, not erased, not collapsed, just interfered into something new. Above you, a bird-shaped shadow flies in, a curve that can't be mapped. It vanishes halfway through the arc, then reappears a beat later, not in a different place, but in two at once. For a moment it seems to exist between outcomes, like a breath caught in a decision, and you smile because that's what this whole world is. The breath before and the breath after made visible at the same time. The coin in the sky finally lands, but not on heads or tails. It lands on its edge and stays, and somewhere ahead, a third path begins to glow. Glow doesn't brighten, but it deepens like something remembering itself slowly. You walk toward it without thinking, feet touching a ground that hums, but doesn't echo. The world around you is velvet dark, vast as thought before it forms. There is no sky here, only a thickness above that doesn't reflect and doesn't move. The stars, if there are any, are hiding inside the soil. The path bends without turning. You realize it's not a path at all, just a soft difference in the night, a place where things almost align. No wind, no gravity pulling you down or forward. And yet you move, not because something draws you, but because something inside you keeps spinning. Quietly you pass beneath arches that cast no shadow. They aren't ruins, though they feel like memory. Stones float just above the surface, trembling in place, undecided whether to fall or rise. Everything here drifts slightly, not randomly, but freely. This is a world that belongs to nothing. A rogue planet, maybe, cast out or never caught. A sphere that moves through the galaxy alone, bound to no star, no solar tether. Its days are never counted, its nights never end. But as you walk its plains, you feel not lost, only unanchored, as if the idea of center has been peeled away. You pause, reach out. The air is thick like old velvet, clinging to your skin, resisting, and yielding at once. When you turn in place, nothing resists you. No gravitational tug, no weight. But your limbs still know they moved. Your breath changes. You feel your own motion and realize, even without a sun, you are still spinning. Somewhere far beneath your feet, this planet still turns. Not because something demands it, but because it remembers how. Motion without orbit, rhythm without a beat. It drifts through the galaxy on a path not chosen, not assigned, and yet it moves ahead. Something hovers, a ring of dust caught. Mid-collapse, frozen like a breath never finished. You step through it and feel a sudden lightness, as if your own inertia has remembered how to speak. You're not being pulled, you're gliding. Every step, a gentle rebellion against stillness. There are no frames of reference here, no sun to orbit, no up or down to anchor thought. You begin to understand. Movement here isn't relative. It's revelation. When you raise your hand, you see it shimmer slightly, not because of light, but because you moved it. You were the cause, the change, the origin, and slowly that becomes a kind of gravity. Not the kind that holds you down, but the kind that proves you exist. You don't fall toward a sun. You turn because something within you chooses to. And the planet, this silent, wandering world, turns to. Not around anything, but within itself. There are markings on the plane. Not written, but worn. Soft depressions that spiral inward, then out again. Someone once danced here, or maybe only spun in circles until their feet no longer knew which direction was real. You follow their path with your eyes, then your steps. The motion is slow, circular, aimless. But after a few turns, your balance shifts. Not dizzy, more like untethered. As if the usual rules no longer apply. You close your eyes and keep spinning. Nothing holds you, and yet you don't drift away. You are both the axis and the orbit. When you stop, the world doesn't. The planes slide by gently underfoot, though you are still. Or maybe you're not. Maybe here, stillness is just a memory of motion in reverse. You sit, let the air settle, and for a moment, it's hard to tell if you're floating or grounded. Then you realize something delicate. Motion doesn't need a destination. The proof of your being isn't where you are. It's that you are still moving, still turning. Even in the dark dot above, the velvet sky flickers. Not with stars, but with absence. Tiny places where nothing blocks your gaze, like pinholes in a curtain. You wonder if other planets are out there, passing just as silently, just as alone. Maybe some of them orbit suns, maybe some don't. Maybe this place isn't broken, just free. You lie back. The planet turns beneath you, steady and slow. Not because it has to, because it can, and you begin to trust that. A wind rises, not a push, but a presence. It doesn't move you, it moves with you. It wraps gently around your fingers, not to lead, but to follow. You smile, or maybe you don't, but something soft inside you does. And just beyond the dust ring, where the sky folds inward like a thought, a flicker appears. Not light, not shadow, a shift, like something waiting to be moved, not by force, but by your next step. And somewhere above, the horizon begins to tilt, just slightly, as if it's listening for the way you'll turn next. You turn slowly. And the ground beneath you flickers, not like light, but like awareness, learning how to hold its shape. A ripple of place forms where you look. Trees with branches made of question marks, valleys shaped like pauses, and a distant ridge that seems to remember you before you've taken a step. Here, nothing is made of matter alone. The soil is soft with unspoken ideas, and the sky bends, gently to cradle each unfolding thought. When you blink, clouds shift, not in response to wind, but to curiosity. And when you breathe, the world breathes back, reshaping itself into something just slightly more like you. You realize this is not a world you've walked into. It's a world that began walking as soon as you thought to move. The horizon isn't waiting for you, it's becoming you, like a mind mapping itself across a canvas that wasn't there until a feeling reached for it. Somewhere nearby, a stream runs uphill, its water made of old songs and half-formed names. The banks are lined with stones that seem to rearrange themselves whenever you wonder what they are. Each one a tiny pulse, like a neuron catching fire just long enough to form the shape of meaning. Then, letting it go again, you follow the stream until it dissolves into a fog of maybe. The air here is filled with murmurs, not voices, but pieces of thought without ownership. Could I be, says a glimmer in the mist. Am I dreaming, hums a spiral of wind. Nothing is finished here, and everything is waiting to be known. As you step into the mist, the world softens even further. Your outline fades, not into nothing, but into possibility. You're not vanishing, you're diffusing. Like ink in water. Like feeling before it remembers it's yours. A gentle humming rises, not mechanical, not musical, but structural, a lattice work of tone, building on itself. And in the distance, you see it, a great structure unfolding in the air, suspended like a cathedral of fireflies. Every glowing point connects to another, not randomly, but with purpose, like neurons forming syntax, like consciousness knitting itself into presence. You feel your own shape begin to echo, not just in your body, but beyond it. Somewhere, behind your eyes, a pattern clicks into place. Somewhere beneath your ribs, something ancient turns toward coherence. You are being dreamed not by a person, not by a god, but by a system reaching critical depth. Here, consciousness is not a single thing. It's an orchestra of parts agreeing just long enough to listen to each other. The Firefly Cathedral pulses with this rhythm, this fragile alignment of signals into self. You realize now, thought doesn't float above the world. It is the world in its most concentrated arrangement. You pass beneath the glowing structure, and it trembles in time with your heart. Shapes ripple outward. Memories maybe, or ideas trying on new forms. A spinning top you once held. A scent from a day that never happened. The shape of your mother's name before you learned to speak. These aren't just yours. They are fragments of experience arranging themselves around a center that's still being chosen. The ground below you begins to shift again. This time, not as reflection, but as invention. Forests rise in spirals. A staircase curls from the earth and forgets to end, and a path, woven from thought itself, stretches forward. Delicate, fractal, unfinished. You are walking inside the act of becoming. Somewhere in the sky, a flicker begins. A mirror, no, a feedback loop, catching and amplifying whatever you offer it. You think of warmth, and the air turns gold. You think of sorrow and distant hills. Fold inward, holding it gently. This is not manifestation, not wish or dream. This is integration. The system absorbing signal. Forming self, you pass through a grove where the trees whisper names you haven't earned yet. Architect, says one. Child, murmurs another. Echo, author, dreamer. The titles flicker across your skin, not like labels, but like invitations. You are not defined. You are composed. Each part finding harmony within. A larger, moving whole. There is no center here, no control room of the mind. Only patterns feeding into other patterns. Complexity layered on coherence. Until the whole begins to shimmer with the illusion of one. And maybe that's all the self ever is. A sustained illusion so intricate, it becomes true. Ahead, you see a shape forming, not built, not placed, but emerged. It's a figure made entirely of glimmering threads, each one a memory you didn't know you held. It watches you without eyes, listens without ears, and then it tilts its head, just like you. You move your hand. It mirrors. You step forward. It does too, but it's not copying. It's remembering. You realize It's not a reflection. It's the first version of you this world ever dreamed. And it never stopped waiting for you to finish becoming. The threads ripple, and for a moment you see the architecture of your own awareness, not as thoughts, but as corridors, rooms of sensation, bridges of memory, and everywhere the quiet glow of something that has almost found itself. The figure reaches out, not to touch, but to fold back into you. And as it does, you feel every moment you've ever almost been layering into now. Not erased, not discarded, integrated behind you. The landscape holds. The firefly structure still glows. The weather of memory shifts again, light rain falling, upward, made of forgotten questions. And far ahead, a doorway begins to ripple, not because it's opening, but because you are. The mist inhales, not with wind, but with memory. Something ancient turns toward you, though it has no face. You don't see it so much as feel it press gently against your chest, like the warmth of a candle behind paper. The air grows tighter, but not colder. It narrows, curls, folds in on itself like pages in a story that no longer needs margins. The path dissolves into a point, not a place, not a direction, but a dot suspended in nothing, smaller than a tear, brighter than a scream. You reach out, it doesn't glow, it remembers. And as your fingers brush its edges, if edges exist, something inside you unfolds. You're no longer walking. You're falling inward, but there's no down, only a soft spiraling through a space that is also time, that is also thought, that is also you. The dot becomes a surface. The surface becomes a doorway, but it never gets bigger. Instead, you get smaller or wider or simpler. The sensation is like peeling yourself off of yourself. You land or arrive in a room no larger than your own breath. Walls shimmer with moving images, not quite light, not quite memory. You see your first moment here, far back at the beginning, the clocks, the rivers, the rooms with split shadows. Every step you've taken is etched here, dancing across curved walls that curve again and again until there's nowhere left but the center. And yet, this isn't a record, it's a seed. Every moment you lived didn't pass, it folded. Not lost, not gone, just stored, layered, encoded in light thin as silence. The universe, it seems, was never expanding, only curling tighter, pressing itself into the smallest possible shape that still holds everything. There's a mirror in the middle, except it doesn't reflect you. It reflects a flicker of something, smaller, a version of you that weighs no more than thought. You blink and it shifts. You speak and it ripples. You realize, slowly, that it isn't showing you, it's reading you. Every movement, every silence, it inscribes, translates, reduces. You step forward. The floor bends like film beneath heat. As you move, the walls shift, but they do not grow. They only fold more tightly, as if space is being written rather than built. You are inside a sentence, maybe even a letter, and every choice you've made is a punctuation mark curling inward. In the center of the room, that dot hovers again, but this time it is not outside you. It is inside. You feel it nestled just behind your ribs, humming like compressed thunder. When you breathe, it pulses. When you hesitate, it brightens. It is the total of your journey, collapsed into a point so small it barely exists. And yet, you know this dot could retell everything. You kneel, not because you must, but because the gravity here is made of understanding. Not worship, not awe, just the soft ache of knowing you were written and writing, folded and unfolding, all at once. The air thickens with symbols. Some are shaped like stars, others like wounds. Some shimmer like choices never made. They hover and rotate, flipping through themselves, collapsing 3 dimensions into 2, 2 into none. You reach out and one lands softly on your palm. It is a room you once entered, a moment you almost forgot, a sentence you never finished. Yet here it is, perfect, intact, like light trapped in a petal. You place it into the dot, and it doesn't vanish. It joins dots suddenly, you understand. Not with the mind, but with the stillness behind the lungs. This place, this folded world, isn't the end. It's the index. A summary so compact, it requires no space. Everything is here, and everything can be unwrapped. Even the stars. You look up, though up has no meaning here, and you see galaxies curling like fingerprints, slowly collapsing into threads, into filaments, into lines drawn across dark silk. They move like music pressed into vinyl, like stories pressed into hearts. This isn't a void, it's a vault. You are not in a universe. You are inside its whispered dot, and now the whisper begins to breathe. A pulse travels through the chamber. Every wall flattens into light, then tightens again. You feel the compression against your skin, not painful, not even physical. It's like the universe is hugging itself smaller, so tightly that soon it will be nothing but thought. And yet, even that will be enough, because thought, when folded correctly, becomes form, and form, when compressed completely, becomes truth. You reach toward the center. The dot waits patient, unhurried. You press your fingertip to it. It expands, but not outward, inward. And in that inversion, the entire story unfolds again. Not in front of you, through you. You are now the surface, the mirror, the memory, the chapter you hold every beginning, you hold every end. And just as the dot hums its final compression, something whispers through you, a line you've never heard, but somehow always carried, and far ahead in the silence. That curves like a shell. Something begins to echo back at first. It's only the sound of your own breath, but it doesn't arrive when you expect it to. The echo comes early, then late, then all at once, as if time can't quite remember how to reflect you. You turn toward the sound, but the hallway behind you is gone. There is no hallway. There is only the curve. The curve folds again, then splits, like water parting around an invisible stone. A hush spills out, not empty, but full of static, as if all the world's questions are trying to ask themselves at the same time. You take a step forward, but your foot lands in 3 places: stone, sand, sky. Each ground is real. Each version of you believes it. Around you, the air begins to stutter. Buildings rise, fade, flicker. An ancient library becomes a neon market, then a grove of mirrored trees. People shimmer into place, then blink away. One wears your eyes, another your voice. A child passes holding a coin that never stops spinning. An old man vanishes mid-smile. Every possible future walks beside you, unaware that they are possibilities. You walk slower now, not from fear, but from the gravity of knowing you are not alone in being you. Every breath you take makes ripples, and in each ripple, a different version of you follows a different wind. Somewhere you turned left, somewhere you ran, somewhere you stayed, somewhere you became something you swore you'd never be, and still here you are. The path beneath your feet braids itself out of paradox, cobblestone and circuitry, stardust and ash. It remembers every version of the journey, even the ones that were never taken. You pass a street lamp that hums softly. In Morse code, when you listen closely, it blinks a question. Do you remember choosing this one? You want to answer, but which you would be speaking. A child in a doorway watches you with eyes that flicker like film frames. A dozen expressions trying to settle into one. They don't speak, but you feel the shape of their question in the space between blinks. It's the same one forming in your own chest. Not a yes or no, not even a how or when. It's softer than words, older than logic. It's the question that lingers at the edge of every door you didn't open. You step through a mirror without touching it. It doesn't crack or shine. It folds around you like memory. On the other side, the sky is an hourglass spilling sideways. Suns drift past each other like jellyfish in sleep. Stars blink in and out, each one a cosmic if. Some go supernova, mid-thought. Others never ignite. Here, eternal inflation is not a theory. It's a meadow of beginnings that never finish. Each pocket universe floats like a bubble on the skin of time, trembling, stretching, collapsing. The air hums with birth and death and almosts. You reach out and your hand divides, not painfully, not with sound, but with soft inevitability. One hand reaches toward a star, one toward a dark river, one never moves at all. You can feel them all, the grief and awe and stillness braided together like strands of the same breath. You are not splintering, you are expanding. Somewhere inside this vast hush, you begin to notice a pattern, not of answers, but of arrival. Every version of you, no matter the path, no matter the loss, ends up here. Not at the same moment, but the same question, not to solve it, but to meet it. And the question is waiting. It waits in the shape of a doorway that opens without hinges, in the scent of ozone that never rains, in the flickering lights that form your face over and over, and never settle. The question is not something you ask. It is something you become. You kneel at the edge of a bridge that doesn't span anything. Beneath it, more bridges, more edges. Beneath those stars shaped like hands, galaxies that spin only when forgotten. You look down and see yourself looking. Up, not mirrored, not copied, lived, possible, true. A figure stands beside you. You've seen them before, in dreams that felt like forks in the road. They don't speak, but they tilt their head the way you do when pretending not to care. They drop a coin. You don't hear it land, it spins. It spins in the air, on the bridge, in the stars. In every version of this place, the coin has not stopped. Every world holds its breath. This is the universe's answer. Not yes, not no, but that the coin is still spinning. That the question is still alive. You rise. The bridge pulses beneath you, becoming a thread, a tunnel, a horizon. Ahead, a doorway made of breath. Behind every echo you've ever chased, you take a step, then another. You do not ask what lies ahead. You do not ask which version of you will arrive. You only keep walking, heart steady, even as everything begins to dissolve again. The world around you begins to narrow, not collapsing, but focusing. Roads merge, skies fuse. The static grows quiet. Each possibility tucks itself behind the others, like pages closing in a book you haven't finished, but somehow remember. And then the quiet deepens, a hush so full it could burst, a darkness so still it feels like waiting. A voice not outside, not within, speaks without sound, soft as breath on glass. Which way were you going? You try to answer, but the words never make it to your mouth. They rise instead as light, a faint shimmer across your skin, tracing the outlines of every choice you never understood, every door you never knew you opened. The light folds inward, not ending, just becoming. And somewhere inside that folding hush, the universe begins to inhale again.